Hello there, and welcome. It is time to talk about Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Uh, just in case you didn't notice in the title, this will be completely spoiler filled. I will be talking about the entire movie, hoping that you have watched it already, because if you haven't, then I'm not sure why you clicked on this video. But if you haven't, then you can put this in your watch later playlist, or whatever you do to, um, mark videos that you want to come back to. But you have been warned. I figured I would break this down into characters. I made a list of the characters I want to talk about. I figured that would be the best way to review this movie, so that I could touch on the points that I want to bring up. I have seen it 3 times now, but the first time I went to see it, there were some things I found kind of distracting, including all the references and kind of callbacks to the original trilogy, just the parallels between them, and that sort of thing. I found that very distracting the first time I watched it, but the next 2 times I kind of put those things aside, tried to not let them bother me, and enjoyed the movie a lot more. So I guess the first character I would like to talk about is Rey, of course, the main character of the movie. As I kind of mentioned, a lot of parallels between her and Luke from the original trilogy. She was a really cool character, who was definitely utilized as much as it was hinted at kind of from the trailers. We got what we wanted kind of from her, which didn't exactly happen for other characters that I will get to later, but yeah, it's obvious that she's used to being on her own and fending for herself. We see her fighting with her staff, which looks close to Darth Plagueis' staff, and of course people are also theorizing that Supreme Leader Snoke is Darth Plagueis, but that staff, I guess, didn't seem to be referenced really in this movie. It was just kind of the staff that she had and fights with, but a lot of people say that it looks like she's had at least some sort of training, which I wouldn't disagree with. Definitely, I mean, fending for herself on her own, she would have learned how to survive and make sure that she doesn't get things stolen from her and all that sort of stuff. But she also may have had training at some point, although it looks like when she had got dropped off on Jakku, she wasn't very old, so I'm not sure. Like, people are saying that she was probably training as part of the new set of Jedi that Luke was training. I don't know, being that young, I don't think she got all of her training and skills from before she was dropped off on Jakku. Anyway, she was obviously able to fend for herself, and then she gets to take up Luke's lightsaber and fight Kylo Ren at the end, and she keeps stretching out her abilities of the Force, which I thought was really cool. Seeing her kind of expanding her skills and abilities and different powers and stuff. That was very interesting for sure. But I'm really hoping that in the next movie, we, for one thing, find out who her parents are, whether it's Luke Skywalker or whether it's someone else we know or someone else we don't know. So I'm sure it'll get explained hopefully in the next movie. But that was something that I was hoping we'd find out in this movie, but obviously that didn't happen. But anyway, I also hope that in the next movie she gets to make her own lightsaber, and I'm assuming, I'd be really surprised if this doesn't happen, but I assume that she will be making herself a double-sided lightsaber, given the way that she was fighting with the staff, and yeah, it just seems like, why wouldn't you give her a double-sided lightsaber? But we'll see what happens there. The next person to talk about, of course, is Finn. Also a good character, although I found that there's a few scenes that kind of felt out of place for me, and they tended to involve him, actually. Whether it was, his fault or not, I don't think I would entirely blame those scenes on him. I think it's probably a mixture of some of the writing, some of the directing of those particular scenes, and just the way those things fit together. But anyway, there was that beginning battle, which is a great battle scene, but then the part where his friend, I guess, gets shot, and then he's over him, and the guy lifts up his hand slowly and rubbing the blood on his mask, which was basically a way of helping us to pick him out from all the other stormtroopers. But I don't know, that scene, like the way that was executed, almost made me laugh, really. Because just the way he lifts up his hand slowly, and then but anyway, that was one of them. Next, there's his interactions between Poe and him when they're in the TIE fighter, kind of yelling back and forth and doing introductions and all of that, and all excited and stuff like that. I felt like that was kind of overacted a little bit, I guess. And then a similar situation was with him and Rey, where they just finished getting away from those TIE fighters, and then they run towards each other, and how'd you do that? How'd you do that? And it kind of reminded me of like the high school musical productions, where it was two people like talking to each other like at the same time, both talking, walking around each other, and kind of overacting, really, and trying to sell to you that they've got good chemistry or whatever. And I don't know, I felt like that was a bit too much. I guess really I've been finding that I'm a fan of subtlety, so those parts were a little in your face to me, as well as a lot of their references to the original trilogy and stuff. I felt like those were a little too in your face a lot of the time, including when a lot of the times on the Millennium Falcon, really. One of them being where Finn leans on that kind of chessboard kind of thing, and then they all pop up, all the creatures pop up, and it's the same two, of course, from the first movie, and they're beating each other up for a few seconds. I just felt like that was a bit too much. It would have been fine if he leaned on it, they pop up, that's weird, hit something, they go away again. That would have been fine. It would have been similar to when he's searching for something, and then he picks up the training ball that Luke was using on the Millennium Falcon, and then he just kind of throws it aside. That was a little more subtle than the board game thing, where they're just popping up, and then they're beating each other up. It's the same exact characters from the other movie, all that sort of stuff. It was just too much, I felt. But anyway, moving on, I guess. They kind of did the bait and switch with us, with Finn there, kind of, showing him with the lightsaber all the time, which he does use and gets his butt kicked twice, basically whenever he's using the lightsaber. It's no wonder he prefers the blaster, I guess. But yeah, he's obviously not force sensitive, and I don't think he'll be donning a lightsaber again, probably, after his past experiences with the lightsaber. Yeah, so that's Finn. Next we have Poe, which is a really cool character. I'm glad they didn't end up killing him off, although I wish they explained a little more how he was back. I mean, sure, he got thrown from the TIE fighter, so he survived that, but then he just left Jakku without finding the droid that he was so determined to get back to. But no, he just left and went back to the Resistance, I guess, and in time to get an X-Wing and fly over to the planet that Maz Kanata is on. And then, I mean, we see how good of a pilot he is in that scene, which is really cool. He's just taking out TIE fighters left and right, and that whole scene was pretty cool. Even shooting stormtroopers off the ground. That whole part was really cool, but the movie really raises more questions than it answers sometimes, where all of a sudden, he's just showing up out of nowhere, and then Finn somehow recognizes that that's him in the X-Wing, even though he thought he was dead and, hadn't seen him in an X-Wing before, basically, because, well, even his X-Wing gets destroyed on Jakku, so obviously he wasn't using the same X-Wing. But anyway, so next we have BB-8, which is a cool character, the R2-D2 replacement for this movie kind of thing. So not really much to say about that character. The comedic moments definitely came through with BB-8, but it was really, I think, definitely a character that was made to sell toys. That's for sure. But it's a good character that fit into the movie fine, and again was there to draw parallels to the original movies. Next we have Kylo Ren, who a lot of people had issues with how they thought he was going to be more Darth Vader like, although they do address that in the movie itself, that he's kind of he's trying to be like Darth Vader, but he's just not there. But he's a very intimidating character, which we saw in the trailers. He's keeps his intimidation basically until he takes off the mask. Once he takes off the mask, that's when kind of all of his intimidation is thrown aside, really, and that's where things start to not be so great about him, I guess. Although I still I see what they wanted to do with him as a character. Once they took off his mask, they wanted to show kind of the conflict in him, the temptation to go back to the light side, and kind of the draws back to the light side there. Some of the lines that he delivers without his mask were kind of a little shaky to me, but I guess during the first viewing as well, from the trailers it looks like he's this very powerful, well, he's not a Sith, but he's this very powerful Force user, and we do see that with the way he just freezes people, and so that they can't move and can stop a blaster shot and then not even think about it and it's still frozen there. All that sort of stuff. He's obviously very powerful with the Force and has, ways of even kind of getting into people's heads and stuff like that, which is a really cool power that I'm glad they brought into this movie. But then you see that he's definitely very unstable, and some people didn't really like his temper tantrums, but I enjoyed the comedic aspect of that, and also kind of understood that was like he's trying so hard to be like as powerful as Darth Vader and do things right for the dark side, and he has his goals that he's been trying very hard to get to, and there's just more things getting in the way and stuff. And then also there's the conflict between dark and light, and so it made sense to me that he was this person that would have a very short temper and have to take that out on whatever was in his way, really. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in the next movies. There'll probably be less conflict in him. So now that he has done what he needed to do to split away from the light side completely, so I think we'll be seeing the Kylo Ren that we were expecting from the trailers more in the next movies. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. And also, his lightsaber is really cool. Like when there's that close up of him, holding his lightsaber, the handle of it. It's a really cool looking lightsaber. And next we have Captain Phasma, who was totally underutilized in this movie. She looks like she's going to be an important role in this movie from the trailers and all that, and all the marketing for her, because she is a cool looking character, so I understand why they're wanting to get toys and all that stuff out there for her. But yeah, she totally underutilized. It's kind of made to look like a bit of a pushover when it comes to taking down the shield. I felt like they rushed that for sure. We need to get down the shields. Okay, we'll just grab her and then point a gun in her face, and that'll be that. And obviously she, or at least I hope she isn't actually dead. We don't really see what happens to her. They kind of make reference once again to the original movies with the trash compactor, but there's no way that she didn't survive that if that's what they ended up doing with her. But yeah, I'm hoping that she is her role is expanded more in the next movies, because looking at her from the trailer, the way she carries herself and stuff like that, it looked like she was going to kind of be the new Boba Fett type character, even though obviously she's not a bounty hunter, but it would kind of be bringing elements of that character into her character. So we'll see where things go from there. Supreme Leader Snoke is the next one I have down. So I thought he was definitely an intimidating and evil looking character. A lot of people had issue with the CGI for his character, but I didn't really find it to be an issue, especially since you see that he's just a hologram in this movie. So it's believable that he would look like that as a hologram. And of course, like, he looks huge, and you don't realize he's a hologram till the end of the first conversation. So that kind of threw people off too, I think. But looking forward to seeing more from him as well, and seeing how tall he actually is, and seeing how powerful he is as well. So he's kind of the emperor type character for this movie. Yeah, he's definitely the one pulling the strings, and we don't even know where he is really, because we've only seen him as a hologram. And next we have General Hux, the Grand Moff Tarkin type character for this movie. Although he's not quite the same. He's the very angry ginger of this movie, and especially during his speech for before they destroy the Hosnian system, it's like, whoa, calm down, sir. But he was a all right character. I mean, he did what he needed to do, really. Although I guess another complaint that people have had is about how the 5 planets were just destroyed like that, and there was really no connection there. All we got was, these 5 planets are where the Republic is, and we're going to destroy the Republic, so let's wipe them out. And then there's really no connection for the audience, because that's all the information we had. You don't even see the people that live on the other 4 planets. You see the one planet, and with the people, watching the energy beam, whatever you want to call it, coming towards them, and it's kind of a Coruscant type looking place, but there's just nothing to it in comparison to A New Hope, where it's like, oh, Alderaan, this is where Obi-Wan and Luke need to get to. This is where the droids are wanting to get to, and it's Leia's home planet and all that sort of stuff, and there's just more connection there when it blows up. When it gets blown up by the Death Star, you actually feel something, really, because it's that's the place where everyone needs to get to. It's this very important place, and now it's just asteroids. But so yeah, that was something that people are disappointed about. I do understand that criticism for sure. And who's next? Han Solo, of course. He was definitely the Obi-Wan Kenobi of this movie, being the older guy taking them where they need to go, helping them out, being brought back into the fight, and then of course dying in the end, being killed by the Darth Vader type character of this movie. But wasn't really surprised by his death in this movie, actually. Harrison Ford had been basically wanting Han Solo to be killed during the original trilogy, so it's not surprising that he got what he wanted in this movie. And they did put him in this movie for a fairly significant role, which I'm sure is connected to the fact that we aren't going to be seeing him in the next movies. And then next, of course, we have Chewbacca, doing what Chewbacca does best, of course. I did find the whole part with him, getting checked over by that nurse, I guess, where she's like, oh yeah, that must have been very scary. You're so brave. That was a pretty funny moment there. The thing about Chewbacca, when they see Leia, he gets a hug from Leia then. But when they come back after Han Solo died, he doesn't get a hug at all. He gets walked straight by. Leia and him walk by each other, and then we see Chewbacca crying because his best friend has been killed, and but nope, no hug for Chewbacca, hug for Rey instead. So that was something that was kind of felt a little strange, I guess. And then also, a lot of people were thinking that he was the one that was who Rey was crying over in the trailer, but I did not. I realized that Finn and Kylo were going to have a fight in what looked to be the same place as where Rey was crying over someone, and a lot of people were thinking that it looked like Chewbacca's fur on the body that was looked to be at least injured, I guess. But I figured that it could also be Finn's jacket, or what we realized to be Poe's jacket, because I figured that the fight between Finn and Kylo would be actually even more one-sided than it was, given the fact that Kylo's actually been trained to use the Force and to use a lightsaber. Finn was just kind of there with a lightsaber with no Force powers, and he even got beat up by that stormtrooper, which I'll get to later. But yeah, I was right. I figured it could be Finn who was at least injured, although I figured he would be losing a limb rather than just having a slice up the back. But it was kind of obvious in that fight between Kylo and Finn, and then Kylo and Rey, that they didn't want to kill any of them off yet, because all of the attacks that actually hit each other were just kind of grazing them, even though they could have done more damage than they did. But anyway, hopefully the lightsaber battles can get a little more exciting in the next movies. Next we have General Leia, who is General Leia not Princess Leia, which the first character in the movie kind of alludes to that, with saying, oh yes, she may be a general to you, but to me she's royalty. And that was kind of the amount of subtlety that I like, I guess. The people calling her princess and then oh sorry, general, that was a little too in your face to me, I guess, especially with C-3PO, who I'll get to in a second. But it's kind of like, okay, it's been 30 years since Return of the Jedi. They were still calling her princess then, but the planet she was princess of had been destroyed for years since before then. So it was like, everyone, by now people should be used to calling her general rather than princess. But anyway, I thought it made sense, her role in this movie, still being a leader of the resistance, since she would have felt that her work was not done with this First Order coming up from the Empire. So that all made perfect sense to me. Next we have, like I said, C-3PO, who was the most in-your-face, not really subtle at all character of the entire movie. Every one of his lines was basically a reference to the original trilogy, it felt, with the whole what's an example, the part where he goes, "Oh, thank the maker." It's like, okay, you've used that line, like it doesn't really make sense in the context where that was used in this movie. So, and then, you know, the part where he pops up between Han and Leia, I mean, that was kind of a funny moment, but then, like I mentioned earlier, he goes, "Oh, sorry, Princess. I mean, General Leia." It's like, how long has she been called General? Like, I'm pretty sure they didn't just start calling her that. But yeah, a lot of his lines were very like complete, you know, reference to the original trilogy, very in your face. And then he has a red arm. What was that about? All of a sudden he has a red arm. Thought that was going to be explained. At the end of the movie, he has his gold arm back. And yeah, no explanation. So what was that about? Anyway, next is FN2199, who is people have been putting all over the internet as TR8R, which of course would make his name traitor, basically, because that is his only line in the movie. But that was a pretty cool scene. Actually, he was like totally up for taking down Finn. Like as soon as he sees him with a lightsaber, he's throwing his blaster aside and getting out the other weapon to go take him on. He just runs into that fight. So that was a pretty cool scene. I really liked that. A lot of people said it would have been cool if Captain Phasma was actually the character who came up and saw Finn and was like, "Oh, you're the traitor," and took out that weapon and fought him. Like, it could have been this exact same fight, except obviously she wouldn't get killed. She'd be just injured or something. But that would have been kind of cool. Add a little more to her character because she was, as I said before, absolutely underutilized. Next we have Maz Kanata, which is a CGI character, kind of the Yoda of this movie. I saw some complaints that it was the CG in that character, or for that character, was distracting. But honestly, that cantina scene, I found the characters that were more likely practical effects to be more distracting, with all the like strange characters that were in there, like those mosquito looking creatures that really, to me, looked like they came out of a Muppets movie or something. And then yeah, just all the like different strange characters in that cantina. There's a lot of them that were really like over the top strange and really distracting, I found. But I liked Maz Kanata as a character. I hope she returns in the next movies as well, because she kind of had an important role, although small. And yeah, I thought she was a good character. Of course, they had to get their cantina scene in because there's a cantina scene in A New Hope. So I guess, although a lot of people have pointed out accurately that her house is just a cantina in the middle of the woods, and all these people come in the middle of the woods for this cantina for some reason. But anyway, next we have R2D2, which, like, the whole way that he was, powered off for the entire movie until just the right moment. Oh, he woke up. He has the rest of the map. Okay. That whole part was really like thrown in there just to it was really thrown in there and made the movie feel very rushed at the end. The whole ending felt really rushed. It was like, okay, now we've destroyed the Starkiller base, so now R2-D2 wakes up. Okay, we have the whole map. Let's put it together. Oh, let's go find Luke. It's like all of a sudden in 5 minutes they have, within 5 minutes they have the entire map, and then they're going to get Luke and they find Luke. Like that, I felt like that was very rushed at the end, and which brings me to the next point, which is Luke Skywalker. Although that the whole finding Luke Skywalker was rushed, then the scene between Rey and Luke felt really dragged out. Rey comes up, and then Luke turns around and takes off his hood, which was fine, but then she takes out the lightsaber and holds it up, and then you look at his face, and then you look at her still holding up the lightsaber, and then you look at his face, and then you look at her, and then we spin around them, and nothing really happens. You're just waiting for something to happen, and because it's all dragged out to be dramatic and all that, but there's really nothing going on. Not a lot going on. I mean, people talk about the look on his face because that's all there really is to talk about in that scene, is just the way he looks at her and then looks at her holding the lightsaber and then continues looking at her holding the lightsaber. And I don't know, maybe he'll take it back, maybe he'll tell her to keep it, but I guess we have to wait till the next movie. But I'm definitely looking forward to the next movie because there's so many things that are unanswered. So I guess their strategy has completed its purpose, because its purpose was most likely set up the next movies and make sure everyone's excited to come back for those. I guess I could rate the movie, or rank them at least. I of course watched through the previous movies in preparation for this one, so I'd probably put Empire Strikes Back first, then A New Hope next, and then don't hate me for this, but I put Revenge of the Sith next, actually. There's a lot of nostalgia for me around that movie, being the first Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters, and also my first Thursday midnight showing. So where people were dressed up in Boba Fett masks and with lightsabers and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of nostalgia for me around that movie. Definitely enjoy watching it. But anyway, so I put those three first, and then this one, and then Return of the Jedi after that, followed by, of course, Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace. But that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's talk more about Star Wars, because it's always time to talk about Star Wars. If you like this video, make sure to give it the good old thumbs up and subscribe for more. You can also follow me on Twitter at DylanMcGill8 for updates on when I upload new videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I thought it would be fitting to start off the year by letting you know what comic book movies are coming out this year. And that starts with Deadpool, which comes out on February 12th.